Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning around the world. This is Doug Brunke with Global Chamber. I'm in Raihan, which is the Japanese Friendship Garden in Phoenix, Arizona, speaking from the Phoenix chapter and our headquarters from around the world. We have visitors here and attendees here in the Phoenix. We're going to be enjoying food and sake after this event, which we think will be about an hour, a little bit over an hour. We have 6 amazing speakers. I'm going to be going to Kevin Crowell in Chicago here in a second, but I just want everybody who's listening to know that we've got these speakers for about 7 minutes each, and then there'll be Q&A. If you have questions as a viewer, please write your question in the box, in the chat box, and we'll be happy to get to your question. So Kevin's with the Asia Business Group. He's going to be talking about Asia more broadly, but he's going to be focused in on Japan. Kevin, thanks for calling in late in the evening there in Chicago.
Well, thank you very much, Doug, and thanks for inviting me to speak. As you mentioned, I'm Kevin Crowell. I am president of Asia Business Group. Asia Business Group has been developing new markets and new customers for American and Japanese companies since 1992 from our locations in Chicago and from Tokyo as well. We focus on B2B applications and industrial markets. And there are a myriad of opportunities to sell to Japanese companies now and in the future. And here's why. Cesar, can I have you go to the next slide, please? The Japanese economy has been sluggish for quite some time. However, it's been growing for the last 6 consecutive quarters. Consumer and business spending are up, but I believe that it's really exports that will continue to play a critical role in driving the Japanese economic engine. Japan's population is about 126 million. It's aging and it's also shrinking. In 2016, the percentage of Japanese over the age of 65 was 28%. In 2025, that will rise to 30%. And as a point of reference, in the United States, only about 14% of our population today is over the age of 65. Japan's birth rate is declining. Fertility rates are very low, and that means that the population is actually shrinking. And on top of that, Japan has very strict immigration laws that make it nearly impossible to rebuild its shrinking workforce. Next slide, please. So as in the past, exports will continue to be the main driver of the Japanese economy. To grow, Japanese companies must rely on exports over their domestic markets. And because of its shrinking workforce, Japanese companies will have to expand internationally more than they already have. Opportunities to work with Japanese companies, therefore, are both global and local, domestic and international. Foreign companies that can succeed in working with Japanese firms will benefit from these trends. And as for the Japanese domestic market, foreign companies that can find profitable niches and deliver products that meet Japanese consumer needs will also be successful. The opportunities that I'm going to be talking about in just a minute are primarily in the Japanese domestic market. But if you're a B2B company, you should understand that opportunities to work with Japanese firms are certainly global. Let's go to the next slide. So what are the opportunities? Well, for large cap companies, the life sciences is a very attractive area. The Japanese government has streamlined its drug and device approval processes to encourage all companies to develop and bring to market new products targeting the wellness of its citizens. In the energy domain, since the great earthquake of 2011, Japan's energy self-sufficiency has dropped to a mere 6%. That means the Japanese government is very incentivized to develop sustainable sources and renewable sources of energy and look for novel ways to decrease energy consumption. And in the technology markets, Japan certainly wants to understand and master what the new trends in technology are. The Japanese government actually is offering incentives to foreign firms with technologies that they need by providing capital and access to their markets. So let's go to the next slide. For mid and small cap companies in the life sciences area, products, devices, apps designed for the geriatric market will be, I'm sorry, you're one ahead of me, Cesar, will be, there you go. Those products will be very well received, especially those that enhance wellness and connectivity. In the energy market, products and devices that reduce energy consumption, IoT thermostats, smart sensors, low power components will be very well received. And in the technology domain, sensors and software for autonomous driving, fintech applications, especially encryption, crowdsourcing, financial management, and sharing apps. Now let's go to that last slide. Maybe you stole my thunder here, but what I want to say is that local is really the new global in Japan. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot you can and should be doing locally to connect with Japanese companies. But where do you start? How do you start a relationship with a Japanese company? Well, certainly doing so in your own backyard is cost effective and can be very, very effective in the long run. And remember that Japanese companies to grow will have to expand overseas. And in Japan, it's really, doing business is really all about the relationship. So the more that you can do to establish relationships here and then leverage them back into Japan and globally, the better off your company is going to be able to exploit those potential opportunities. Develop relationships with Japanese banks in your area. They can be a very, very effective way to introduce you to Japanese companies that may be interested in your products. Work with your vendors. Most manufacturing companies have some Japanese vendors, and oftentimes key materials or components are coming from Japan. Get to know those vendors and enlist them and enlist their help in helping you to grow your business with the Japanese. And then finally, build social networks with Japanese companies and their employees. In the United States, we have Japanese chambers of commerce which operate regionally. We have Japan American societies which operate on a city-by-city basis, and certainly play a big part in your industry associations. The Japanese are joiners. They like participating in associations. Get to know them, reach out to them, and begin a relationship. And finally, the last slide, Cesar. Want to again thank you for the time this evening. This is a lot to cover in a short period of time, so I look forward to your questions and comments during the question and answer segment. Yoroshiku onegai itashimasu. Thank you.
Yoroshiku. Thank you very much, Kevin. Really appreciate that information. This is Doug Brunke back in Phoenix, Arizona. We're now going to be, while we have him, we're hoping the connection holds, Raihan Hadi calling in from, I believe, Chittagong, Bangladesh. Is that the case? Raihan, are you there? And you'll be covering the opportunities that you see in Bangladesh.
Yeah, hi, Doug. I'm actually based in Dhaka, but I go to Chittagong, go and come back from Chittagong like, on a regular basis. And hello, everyone. My internet connection's like really poor because our substation is being replaced, upgraded at the moment. so we're facing internet, very slow internet over here. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak over here today. I will be speaking about new opportunities for businessmen all around the world in Bangladesh. Just to give you a quick overview of the Bangladesh economy. Our economy has been growing roughly around 6% per year for about the last 21 years, and most of the GDP is generated through the services sector, although half of our human resources are working in the agriculture sector, where rice is our main product. And besides that, we are doing our major export product is garment and apparels, which account for more than 80% of total exports. And back in 2016, it surpassed $25 billion. And remains to be the key contributor. So just a glance for all of you to have a look at the GDP based on purchasing power parity and the real growth rate and per capita income. And next slide, please. Here's a bit of information about our major agricultural products and industries, where I must say the major agricultural product, as I said before, is rice, jute, tea, sugarcane, potatoes, tobacco, oilseeds, spices. And then among the industries, there's jute, cotton, garments, paper, leather, iron and steel, cement. Pharmaceuticals is very important at this time. Also tea. And although we've mentioned electricity, but we're falling back on supporting ourselves at the moment. That's what I'll also be speaking about later as an opportunity for renewable energy firms around the world. Okay, so you can see an overview on the exports of Bangladesh. Mainly I spoke of garments and knitwear. Then there's agricultural products. There's fish and seafood, jute and products made of jute, leather, and an overview of our major export partners, where US is always number one. Then comes Germany, UK, France, Spain. And I must also mention that in the garment sector, which was actually founded in Bangladesh by in partnership with South Korean companies back in 1973, Korea remains to be one of our biggest export partners, whereby they Korean companies, they provide with all the latest garment manufacturing machineries and expertise. And in Chittagong export processing zone, most of the garment producing companies are Korean companies in partnership with Bangladeshi companies. Now I'm also having a look at the overview on imports of Bangladesh, whereby we import a lot of cotton, machinery and equipment, chemicals, iron and steel, food and beverage as well. And major partner is always China. And then comes India, Singapore. Next slide, please. Okay, so talking about the current opportunities in Bangladesh, the current government is mainly focused on developing ICT and telecommunications, roads and highways construction, and of course green building, which is like environment friendly building products, raw materials. Many of you might know that this green building product called pre-stressed concrete hollow blocks, they're slowly rising high on demand because the government of Bangladesh is going to put an injunction on the use of topsoil as well as sedimentary riverbed soil for using bricks, and also burning coal for using making bricks. So in about 2 years from now, a major transition is going to take place, and most of the fixed chimney kiln brick producers of Bangladesh are going to shift towards making bricks by using no coal and topsoil or sedimentary soil at all. So we're also, if you may know, the Environment Product Declaration by the International Standardization Authority, which is ISO, as well as LEED certification by US Green Building Council is coming into effect. So people looking into doing business on renewable energy products plus environment-friendly construction materials and machineries as well, they can come into Bangladesh and do good business on these areas. Also, I've shortly mentioned about geocells, which is something I roughly know about, a technology that you use to construct roads that are like long lasting and also very, very easy to construct. Pioneers in geocells are yet to come to Bangladesh, so anyone should be welcome. If they come with the technology and approach the government, they should be welcome, because roads in Bangladesh up until now have not been so well constructed. And if any of you come and visit Bangladesh very soon, you'll see that many roads are very dilapidated. I've already mentioned about LEED certification. I would like to introduce a company called Green Tree Bangladesh. Next slide, please. See, for those companies who want to come to Bangladesh and provide LEED certification and consultancy services under the US Green Building Council, they are most welcome to partner up with this company called Green Tree Bangladesh, with whom I've been working for some time. And they are one of the best consultants for green building, LEED certification, EPD, and building design as well. So if anyone wants to enter the Bangladesh market through partnering up with Green Tree Bangladesh, I've provided Global Chamber and Cesar with a portfolio, which you are welcome to go through. Moving on, I've already mentioned about renewable energy products and manufacturers of solar panel, mini-grid plant producers, renewable energy firms, and ICT-based firms, telecom engineering firms. They're most welcome to try out businesses in Bangladesh. Moving on to agriculture and fisheries, I have spoken about the demand of crabs and other seafood items from Bangladesh. So any agricultural technology firms and agricultural machinery and equipment producers and trainers are most welcome to come to Bangladesh. And next I will move into ready-made garments, which I've already spoken about. There's a lot of work to be done, especially in the human resource training and development, and also compliance management, for which you need to refer to Accord Alliance and Primark and Esprit guidelines. And I've also provided some useful links for everyone to have a look at Bangladesh trade barriers and prohibited restricted imports, and also the market challenges. Thank you for your patience.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And the slides and the information will be available after. And if you don't get them or you find that you don't have them for whatever reason, just let us know. Thank you, Raihan, and I'm glad the connection ended up working out to be okay. We're now going to be moving a little bit further west to Bangkok. and James Herendeen, Managing Director and CEO of the Herendeen Group, is going to be talking about what's going on in Thailand and what some of the opportunities are. James, are you there?
So far, yes.
You are there. Fantastic.
That's very we are here, and yeah, we are here. Thank you very much, Doug, for the invitation, and good morning and good day to everybody, whatever time it may be for you. It's early in the morning, and after this discussion, I'm taking my 3-year-old son to school. So here is a bit of a profile on Thailand. I'm very often asked if Thailand is a safe and secure place to do business, even to come and visit, because as you would probably know, we had a military coup in 2014-15, and Thailand has become known as the country of coups. There have been 12 since 1932, and I can say that Thailand is safe, secure, and the military regime have done a reasonably solid job in their economic stimulation programs. Several sectors, manufacturing, health, hospitality, are all very stable, and I'll get into some numbers for you in a couple of minutes. The economic situation is Thailand is growing at about 3.5%, and that's up from 3.3% estimated growth. And we had a very strong second quarter in which the agriculture sector and the merchandise export sectors both grew considerably better than what had been expected. In the case of agriculture, year-on-year growth was 7.7%, which outpaced the forecast by almost a factor of 2. And merchandise exports up 6.6% from year to year, experienced a 4-year record growth year to year. So we're very strong in agriculture and merchandise exports as of the second quarter. 2018 is looking very, very good. The current forecast of 3.6% GDP with highlights in education, services liberalization, public infrastructure, and in digital economy. So Thailand continues to be in this Southeast Asian part of the world. We are the second strongest economy after Malaysia, continues to do very well. And I'd like to talk just a minute about the economic stimulus that the government has put in place. In 2015, the government allocated more than $10 billion for stimulation. 30% of that is earmarked to SMEs for loan extension, tax relief, and also for personal household income investment and spending. Money has been allocated for village funds and farm loans, and then also to the relief of consumer debt and small business debt. So the climate for the SME company environment and incoming investment, direct foreign investment, is very, very strong. So growth in 2015 was about 2.8%, not very dramatic. But in 2016, we went to 3.3. In 2017, we're looking at 3.6, and 3.6 again in 2018. So things are looking robust, I should say. I'd like to talk very briefly about the Thai digital economy. There is a concerted government investment in high-speed internet distribution in the rural areas and the agricultural areas to achieve greater connectivity in rural communities for the generation of new opportunities, better communications, and better decision making. Now, the government is also forecasting large growths in 5 specific technology sectors. One is security. The other is infrastructure, that is to say information infrastructure, government investment in technology, manpower and applications, that is to say the manufacture and the distribution of new applications. So Thailand is very much poised to be at the cutting edge in the region for high-tech and internet-related business. There are 5 segments of industry segments that we see, the Herendeen Group sees as being particularly interesting. And let me just run through those very quickly. Manufacturing. Thailand is looking to drive itself from being a manufacturing economy to a knowledge-based economy, and that is to say bringing higher value added production on stream beyond the bricks and mortar manufacturing sector. Currently, we're looking at 64% capacity, manufacturing capacity, and that is occupied by cars, engines, automotive-related industries, and electronics. Rubber and sugar and the bricks and mortar still are robust manufacturing sides of the business, but Thailand is definitely moving to the implementation of high technology manufacturing migration. The other 4 sectors are traditionally very strong for Thailand. One is hospitality and travel. This is picking up from, we've really experienced a bad time in this sector from 2014, 2015 because of the coup, and mostly that's a perceptual issue, not a real issue. We never had any problems on the streets. Tourism was fine. It's just that people stopped coming. But it's picking up noticeably in 2017. A thing that's happening here is that millennials are driving decision-making. Tours are out as a source of business, and now what we're looking at are boutiques and boutique services, even being applied through the big hotel chains. And so there is a kind of a transformation in what is traditionally a Thai stronghold in hospitality and travel. Healthcare and medical tourism remain very strong. Prices here have gone up, but so have services, and so has the level of science and medical services. So in the healthcare and medical sector, there's still very high value for money, and we're seeing the hospital sectors are very, very robust in the region, and we'll see more of that. And then technology and related services, security, infrastructure, government, manpower, and applications. These are especially affecting small business investments inside the major metropolitan areas of Bangkok and Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai. But we also see an emerging design and development sector. And then finally, consumer goods and services. In this area, we're seeing a movement from exclusivity and high-end branding and product embracement to quality. That is to say, there's a brand evolution taking place here. and that's being driven by millennials and millennial value sets and motivators. And so if you're in the retail sector, if you're in the branding sector, the Gucci's and the Hermes there will always be a market for these brands, but now the functionality, green, environmental value sets and motivators are really driving brand selection in this marketplace. And on a final note, I'd like to mention the Board of Investment here. For people coming in and companies coming into Thailand, there is a Board of Investment structure here that encourages direct foreign investment at basically two levels. One is activity-based incentives that are centered around merchandise and raw materials, and the second is merit-based incentives, which is research development, IP acquisitions, and technology. And to get some rather significant tax breaks and duty-free and suspended duty advantages, you can get 6 years of tax relief if you qualify here. So you have to look into Board of Investment opportunities. And on a final note, we encourage our clients to take a look at research services in this marketplace as they come in and evaluate both the consumer markets, their business relationships, distribution, and pricing. There's both qualitative and quantitative research services available. The major research firms are here, and the major methodologies and technologies are all being applied. We encourage our clients to make those investments before making investments, or as they make investments in the Thai market. So I look forward to your questions and look forward to seeing you in Bangkok. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. A very comprehensive and I think thoughtful analysis. We're now going to, you mentioned Malaysia, Thailand being the #2 economy in ASEAN, I think you're probably meaning. And then we're going to Malaysia now. And in fact, we're going to talk to a Malaysian expert. Shams Rusli is in New York. He worked for the Investment Development Agency, and Shams, we look forward to hearing the status of Malaysia, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Doc and Global Chambers for this speaking opportunity today. It is close, it is past 5 minutes past 8 in New York right now, but I'm very happy to have this session with all of you, and I hope that the information that I share would be beneficial and useful. I would like to take you all to some interesting facts about doing business in Malaysia. Should I control that slide from here? Is that Cesar is going to show up the slide from there?
We hope so.
Oh, I can just pull it up. All right. Oh, okay.
Nice.
Got it? All right. All right. Thank you. So let me introduce MIDA. Can you click one more time? Just click forward. Okay, that's cool. Let me just begin with introducing MIDA. It is a Malaysian Investment Development Authority, is a government agency that promotes investment in manufacturing and services in Malaysia. So we are one-stop shop for any business, any companies that have interest to invest in Malaysia. So we handhold any companies with their specific project and proposal to do in Malaysia, and also help companies in their business strategies for Asia Pacific. So we are also a government agency that evaluates applications, and we all the stakeholders sit down with us in one committee to decide on the manufacturing license, for example, on the tax incentive, on the expatriate posts, importing raw material components into Malaysia. So other services, we also give some views to government in formulating the right policy for industrial development, for example. So in the next slide, this is the usual, kind of questions that I get from customers and from companies. Why Malaysia? So we tell them, some of the companies that have established their operation in Malaysia, they point out these are all the reasons they pick Malaysia as their investment destination. We are let me just tell you a few key strengths of Malaysia. We are very stable, politically stable country. We've well-developed legal system and pro-business government policies. 100% foreign equity is allowed, and there is no restriction at all for companies to repatriate their profit, money that they have made in Malaysia. And then we offer the best quality and productive workforce. We have more than 40 public and private universities that produce more than 400 or 600 graduates in many disciplines, in polytechnics, industrial trainings, and offer courses leading to the certificate, to the degree and post-degree qualification. So in total, I'm sorry, I missed this number. In total, we have more than 300,000 graduates, and half of it in science and technical disciplines. And can you go to the next slide, please? Attractive tax incentive. So we have offered companies with the pioneer status, for example, 100%, some project may get 100% tax exemption for 5 years. It's tax holiday. And some company may enjoy, 10 years, depending on the impact of that project to the economy. So these are the types of the incentive. Can you go to the next slide, please? We have very good infrastructure. Malaysia's persistent drive to develop and upgrade its infrastructure has resulted in one of the most well-developed infrastructure among ASEAN. So as you can see, these are the map of Malaysia, map of two sides of Malaysia, East Malaysia and Peninsula of Malaysia. It is about 30 million population, and GDP is between 4 to 6% every year. Can you go back? I'm sorry. Okay. So our per capita income every year is between $10,000 US. It is between 9,900 to 11,000 US a year. So in terms of the infrastructure, we are very well connected between major cities in Malaysia. And we have, as you can see, we have 7 international seaports. And we have, if you can go to the next slide, we have also 7 international airports. So these airports are capable of handling more than 40 million passengers a year, and for more than 1 million tons of cargo a year. So I'm referring to the new Kuala Lumpur International Airport. So a lot of concentration of industrial in peninsula of Malaysia on certain industries, and we have another industries like a petrochemical, oil and gas in the east of Malaysia. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. We have a very, very good connection and a great bilateral trade relationship with the United States. Malaysia was the third largest trading partner with America. We are fourth largest source of import. And for Malaysia, I mean, in US perspective, we are 18th largest trading partner. And most of the products that we trade between America and Malaysia, major products are electronic and electrical, oil and gas, and machinery. Next slide. These are some of the examples of the multinational companies that have established in Malaysia. We have more than 5,000 companies that come from more than 50 countries. Next slide, please. So to give you how comfortable with United States with Malaysia, United States is the second largest FDI contributor. Between US and Japan, it has been between them, you know. Sometimes Japan number one and sometimes US in number one. This is implemented project from based on the foreign investment project implemented in Malaysia. Next slide, please. These are the example of the top US investment in Malaysia. As you can see, there are various, they come from various industry. Electronics and electrical is major because when Malaysia was first introduced back in 1970s, Intel was one of the major companies that first came and established the semiconductor factory in Malaysia. And the other companies have followed suit, like Western Digital, Freescale. So a lot of movement, a lot of investment have been in the electronics and electrical, which have helped develop the other industries. We get very good, great spin-off for the industry into the other industries as well. Next slide, please. Cesar, can you go to the next slide? Okay, let's go take a look at the business opportunity. Another slide, Cesar. So these are the major industries. I'm not going into the details of the activities, but as long as the activities in that group of the industries, you can, we welcome with the tax incentive, offered to you. So if you do value add product from natural resources, for example, you get great incentive from the government. And if you're interested to do manufacturing of machinery and equipment, so they are, our focus is on the advanced and automated manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. We cannot afford to have labor-intensive projects,
because our unemployment rate is so low, 3.1%, and our employment numbers of employment supplies is about 10 million, and we used up all our the supply already. So we are importing a lot of foreign workers. So we cannot afford to importing these foreign workers anymore, because we are developing our economy into the next stage of, right now we are calling it as Industry 4.0. So we are encouraging local companies, local players to transform, to move up their supply chain into automated processes. Next slide, please. So this is three catalytic subsectors that we are heavily promoting: chemical,
electronics and electrical and machinery and engineering industries. So and two subsectors. Part of it, it is MRO and also medical devices. So we are giving a lot more attention to these industries and these subsectors. Next slide, please. Regional operation. A lot of, I would like to give you some idea. A lot of American companies are looking at using a location that they can control. They can use as a regional hub, for example, for their market in Asia Pacific. So Honeywell is using Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, as their regional hub for their activities in Asia Pacific, in Southeast Asia. So we provide a special incentive for that kind of activities. So we want to encourage companies to use Malaysia, as we are in the great, we are located in great strategic location that you can use to work around your business networks in Southeast Asia. Next slide. Market. So when you talk about ASEAN, when you talk about Malaysia, it's about 30 million population. It's small. So that's the need for ASEAN. We have more than 600 million market population, and we work through together. We work with these 10 member ASEAN countries. And as you can see, we are, the third largest market in the world right now, right? So we are probably the total FDI inflow is about 132 billion in 2013, and we are expecting it to be across 200 billion in 2020. So ASEAN is the next, I would say, the next tax incentive for companies. If you are looking at the new emerging markets, this is the marketplace for you. Next slide. And we have trade agreement, free trade agreements with other countries. You can get your product and services to go out to Korea, Japan, China, to Australia, New Zealand. That's for Asia Pacific market. So I would like to urge American companies to look at Malaysia as a location for you to go to other markets, to push you or to expand your business to that region. Don't think about doing it in that country and ship it back to the America. I would encourage to use Malaysia as a model that you can expand to that region. And before I end my session, I would like to share with you some of the some of the rankings. We are ranked second in Southeast Asia as the nation that, according to the World Economic Forum report, in terms of the ease of doing business, and in terms of the competitive report, World Economic Forum, we are 23rd in the world ranking. I'm based in New York. Feel free to reach me out if any of you are interested to learn more about opportunities in Malaysia. I am still here to answer if there is any questions or any interest about doing business in Malaysia. Thank you.
Shams, thank you very much. Very comprehensive. We're now going to, and please hang on. You didn't mention TPP, so we're definitely going to come back to that question. We're now going to shift over to the Philippines. Colin Christie, Global Chamber Executive Director, you're going to give us a rundown of the Philippines, and then we're going to ask the audience here and around the world to provide your questions. Colin, are you there? Uh-oh, that would be bad if he wasn't there.
Do you hear me?
We do now, absolutely.
Okay.
How are you?
I think my mute was on. Sorry about that. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. So yeah, I'll just give you a brief overview of the Philippines and what's going on here. We're often in the news for the wrong reasons, but there's many really great things happening here, and an excellent time to be engaged with business opportunities. Just a quick background. I suspect many of the audience already know this, but you know, this is a nation of islands, right? There's over 7,000 islands that make up the Philippines, and which makes it a fantastic tourist destination as well. Beautiful beaches and tourist destinations. There's just 11 of those 7,000 islands where the majority of the population lives, of course. The country is a very young population. The median age is only 23 years old. And I think something like 2/3 of the population excuse me, about 1/3 of the population is under 14 years old. So it's a very young, dynamic workforce and evolving because of the very long stretch now of high GDP growth. So Philippines grew at 6.9% GDP last year, which I think tied for the fastest in Asia, 6.5% this year. So the growth continues, you know, to be very, very strong. It's a very much English-speaking country. It's very, you know, probably the sort of the most Western country, I guess, in Asia. The majority of the population are Catholic, and there's also a significant number of Filipinos around the world. I think it's sort of the Filipino plot for global domination. They send their workers all over the world. There's over 11 million overseas Philippine workers. And in fact, remittances from those overseas workers is about 13% of the GDP of the country. But I think if you look at the current state of the Philippines, I guess the message I have to everyone is pretty much every vertical, every sector, there are amazing business opportunities because of the growth story here. Certainly, there's been a real estate boom going on here. Entire modern business districts and cities are like popping out of the ground like weeds. You know, hundreds of high-rise buildings have gone up over the last few years. And then, of course, that drives all the ancillary business around that, whether it's engineering or design or materials, construction. So anyone who's in the construction business, there's just tremendous opportunities. What Philippines is mostly known for, I think, overseas is the services sector, of course, the BPO sector, both voice and non-voice. That was driven over the last 15, 20 years by some significant tax incentives. The government set up what are called PEZA zones, which are buildings basically where there are multi-year tax holidays. And so the Philippines now is, you know, the #1 in the world when it comes to certainly the voice sector. For most likely, if you're calling Expedia or your bank for customer service or any kind of voice service, someone in Manila is answering the phone. But then along with that, and of course that then leads to rising incomes, especially a lot of these young folks, and they love to spend that, right? So that's driving retail. Philippines has a very high acceptance rates, really probably I would even say preference for American brands. So when you go in the malls, everything from, you know, the clothing to the fast food chains, it's really all American brand driven. So certainly anyone who are exporting, you know, American products are a very high acceptance rate of that. Another sector exploding, of course, is healthcare as incomes rise and folks are able to allocate more money to their health. Then that drives demand for clinics and hospitals. So there's very high rate of construction of family practice clinics, you know, expansion of hospitals. Quite a number of the hospitals have recently been going for JCI accreditation. That's, you know, the Joint Commission that's really out of the States, so that the quality levels are rising. and then that drives demand for medical devices. So if you're in the medical device arena, medical systems, software, electronic medical record systems, everything related to healthcare, there's tremendous opportunity here. In the State of the Nation address, the State of the Union address here, our president said that his priority, other than the drug war, is 3 words: build, build, build. So there's a massive plans underway to do significant, massive infrastructure, roads, highways, bridges, rails, more airports. Of course, that drives the need for more power, energy, renewable energy sources, water. So anybody who's in the infrastructure area, there's tremendous opportunity here. And then I think finally, 2 other areas which I think are driving the world economy, and that's digital transformation. There seems to be, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, very high awareness and acceptance of the idea that digital transformation can make a massive difference in the country here. And so that stretches across so many sectors, fintech and financial services. There's a large unbanked population here, so microfinance, through digital apps and digital platforms. There's a move towards smarter cities, smarter government services, data management and analytics, better disaster preparedness. We subject to a lot of typhoons here. Improvement in environmental cleanup, smarter agriculture. So I'm giving a pretty long laundry list, but I think, sort of intentionally to kind of get across the point, whether you're in everything from real estate to banking to energy to digital to software. It's just quite an incredibly dynamic environment right now. And also, then finally, entrepreneurship. There are business incubators now and a lot of increase in foreign direct investment. So it's a great time also for people who are entrepreneurs and looking to launch, new businesses and disrupt the old ones. It's a very excellent time also here in the Philippines for that. So quick overview, Doug, but I hopefully it gives an idea of what's happening in this part of the world.
Really appreciate it, Colin. You were, this is our second annual event like this in the garden, and last year we crashed, I think, while you were presenting your conversation about the Philippines. This year it seemed to work out well, despite the fact that this event actually is being organized out of Puerto Rico. And so the fact yesterday actually a cable was hit and there was no power at all. And today, so far, fingers crossed, Cesar is going to be able to manage it. We've seen, Cesar, for your information, we've seen some messages coming here where like the meeting is coming here or there, but other than that, I think it seems to be going well. We'd now like to do some questions. We actually have a presentation from Vinod Bimrajka from India. It's a several-minute presentation, but we're going to save it for the blog post that follows this event so that we can, while we have you guys and we know you're there, we can ask some questions. And some of the, we've only got time for probably 2 or 3 questions. One of the questions coming in is about TPP, especially the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which the U.S. has backed away from, which included, I remember, Malaysia, Japan, Singapore, a lot of the ASEAN countries. I don't remember if Philippines was part of that or not. But what was it, Colin? It wasn't, was it?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so maybe Shams, if you want to address that, because you talked a lot about the U.S. foreign direct investment in Malaysia, number 2 behind Japan, a lot of import-export between the U.S. and Malaysia. How do you actually had a slide on treaties, but you didn't mention TPP. Could you address that, and what's your view from a Malaysian perspective? And since about half of the viewers today are from the U.S., how should American companies be thinking about, is it an obstacle? Is it an opportunity? How do we progress? Shams, are you there?
All right. Good. TPP without America, we call it TPP -1. But I was given the impression that we are trying to conclude RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is another pact that includes China and the TPP without America countries. So we are considering this. We are still in the discussion. The original plan is to conclude that pact by end of the year, but I don't think that the participating countries will be able to come up with the conclusion. So a lot of discussion will be going on with the participating countries. That would include the 10 member ASEAN countries, plus China, India, and Korea, and also Japan, Australia. There's another country, I can't remember, but RCEP will be replacing this TPP. I don't think they would continue to roll on TPP. They would definitely come out with the RCEP and one belt, one road. The one that being promoted by China right now. On that, the one belt, one road slogan is something that being looked at by all ASEAN countries. So we need that free trade agreements, because Malaysia or ASEAN is so small, and we want to work closely together with other countries. And we are also talking to America and other countries to have individual free trade agreements. If that regional is not working, so we are ready to talk, to discuss with individual countries like America, Canada, or even Britain when they, as they enter the Brexit era. So Malaysia itself, we cannot just, hold on to ourselves. We have to have an agreement that we can work closely with the other countries.
Okay, very good. Kevin, you want to take that one? Has what's happening, dampened some of the U.S. interest in the region, and particularly in Japan? I think things like rice and beef and soybeans, things that have been difficult, especially rice and beef, have been difficult for U.S. agricultural manufacturers to get into Japan. Now it's going to stay a little bit difficult. So in Australia, the beneficiary.
Right. Yeah. I'm more focused on Japan than the rest of Asia, despite the company name. But essentially, anything that can tie countries together and get them to trade, I think is a wonderful thing. I was personally disappointed to see that the U.S. had backed out of TPP. I felt that we were relinquishing our very strong role in Asia to really for not a very good reason. I think that certainly without the agreement in place, it means that we're going to have to go back and negotiate the trade deals one by one, sector by sector. It becomes a very laborious thing to do. It would have been, I think, quite a bit easier for us if we had the ability to, to tie this together. And then certainly regionally, what is good for U.S.-Japan relationships is also good for U.S.-Malaysia, and the other ASEAN countries as well. I see that, hopefully that in the future, if we can get our ducks all in the right row, that perhaps it would be a good thing to take a look at again.
Very good, thank you. In terms of enthusiasm and actual data, trade data. I think it just came out that overall trade, global trade is going to be up again this year. The forecast for next year is up. And so as some of you know that follow our newsletters, all of you guys speaking, of course, is that 85% of the economic activity is outside the U.S. over the next 5 years, and so there's a lot of opportunity there. I think some of the things I heard were construction, clearly going on. Colin, you emphasized that. We heard that in Thailand. We know that's going on in Malaysia. So it sounds like, gentlemen, and one of the questions was around construction. How do companies that have either materials or not so much the construction companies, but people who have materials or technologies in construction, how do they enter these markets? What are some of the better ways for them to proceed? Maybe some of you can address it for the countries that you're either in or you're working with.
Well, I'll start off by saying that it always helps to have a local partner, and particularly in the construction area when you're talking about high-tech materials, new types of architectural styles. It really helps to have somebody local who knows the local building codes, etc. I know we heard from James about the interest that Bangladesh had in lead construction, and I think that's a very important thing. I know that there are a lot of American companies that have developed products specifically for that marketplace, and I would think that they would be quite interested in looking at new opportunities going into Bangladesh and elsewhere.
Philippines, I'd say similar answer. I also would say having a local partner here is pretty much essential, actually. And LEED is also very big now in the Philippines. You're seeing that used widely for marketing, especially in the new business districts. They very prominently put their LEED certification on their marketing materials. So anyone who's got expertise or capabilities in that area. There's a growing awareness, I think, also, over environmental needs inside commercial office buildings. I think another example is a lot of is a shift in construction techniques and materials. So whereas most of the older buildings in Metro Manila, it's sort of just concrete buildings, now you're seeing, for example, the technology for the glass facing, glass front buildings, so that where they have the glass panes that get hung on the very, very fast wave construction and economic. I believe, if I remember correct, that there's some significant Australian manufacturers now have been very successful in securing contracts here in Manila for example, for those materials and technologies. But really, any way to modernize the way that you build high-rise buildings, there's tremendous opportunity here.
To echo that what our counterparts mentioned about the green technology, for example, Malaysia just hosted an international event which was held a few days ago between 11 to 13 October. We attracted more than 25 global visitors and more than 375 business leads came to Malaysia. So we do promote through collaboration and also on their own if they get that certain specific business license. So we can guide, we can get the relevant stakeholders sit down, and then the foreign companies, players, would be able to discuss further with the potential partners, or they can work on their own. So yes, that kind of business are welcome in our country. we are heavily investing in the high tech and the green technology, building materials and also processes.
Very good. Thank you very much. We went a little bit over in our speaking, so we're going to end the presentation today. I'd like to mention that there will be a blog post that will cover all of this and all of the information and include Vinod's presentation from India. I'd like to thank Kevin, President of Asia Business Group, our first speaker, Raihan from Bangladesh, Global Advisor for Global Chamber there, James Herendeen, Managing Director of the Herendeen Group. Shams, thank you very much for taking the time this evening. And by the way, the Yankees just went ahead and they're now about to close down the Astros 6-4, but we'll see. So I don't know if you've become a Yankees fan since you moved to New York, but not that I'm paying attention.
I cannot follow baseball, but I'm a big fan of Cowboys.
The Cowboys, okay. You follow cricket probably, right? What's your sport?
Oh, yeah, cricket, yes, true.
And then Colin, thank you again. I think you're the one repeat from last year. I really appreciate the information. I think what we're hearing here is an amazing number of opportunities. One of the things for all the people who are around the world who are watching, if you can't get a hold of the person through the Global Chamber website, either through the directory or through the web pages, contact me, Doug Brunke, doug@globalchamber.org. Watch for this information. Thank you, everybody, for paying attention and being part of this. Our third birthday is coming up on November 3rd, which is a Friday, so I encourage you to check into your local chapter to see what they have in store. Certainly here in Phoenix, what we have in store is a happy hour at where our headquarters is at Sky Song, and November 3rd at 3 o'clock. Representing our third anniversary. So thank you everybody for joining in. We'll talk to you later.